So how we doing? How you doing, Craig?
Oh, I'm doing good. I don't think these really work well with microphones.
No, I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
It's not good audio.
No.
I'm also like I can't breathe. Oh, Craig, you could take yours off. We took ours off. Craig looks like that's. He's got the hoodie and everything.
Here's the thing, though.
Oh my God!
The expression on the mask and the expression on Craig's face under the mask, the same.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I feel very good right now.
Actually,
yeah.
Actually, leave it on.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's Halloween. Hope you have fun with the kids. Max Olson, who normally joins us on Thursdays, who's been a busy beaver, by the way, the last couple of days with this story involving the Big 12 and helmet communications, and a little bit more on that in a moment. But happy Halloween. Enjoy the night with the kids. Craig, of course, I don't have any kids come by my place. It's kind of tucked in the back. It's a condo complex. Craig doesn't either, but Paul, you do, right?
Yeah, we do. We often do. Last year was a little disappointing. Amanda loves Halloween. She's not I'm not a Halloween person. She's not a Halloween person in general, but she loves Halloween night. She loves, trick-or-treating. Linda, my mother-in-law, this is one of her favorite nights of the entire year.
Is it really? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she loves it. She loves it. So
you got some candy for us. We appreciate that. Craig's a big Reese's guy, and Snickers, Twix, and Three Musketeers, which I love. I haven't had a lot of them lately, but I do love them. I always get one from Craig in my stocking every year. All right. I'm sorry, I gave away secrets. So let's get to what happened really towards the end of the show. This is from Max Olson, the latest on the Big 12, when yesterday there were, I don't know if the word is accusations, but there was some finger pointing. A Texas Tech apparently frustrated and maybe more than that, concerned that there was some headsets in the audio that was being, I don't know if stolen is the right word, but that there might be some issues with the headsets. That's not breaking news about the issues with the headsets. Craig brought this up yesterday. So the Big 12 has done their investigation, says there's nothing that shows anything that would have led to anything that would have given somebody any kind of advantage or anything what they found at all. So let's do the backstory. Craig, you brought this up. This came out when A&M played Arkansas earlier in the year. So let's start there, because that's when it kind of became known by some people that there were some issues with the possibility of not encrypted in the headsets. Every single conference that agreed to do the helmet communications was promised by the company that this would not be an issue. They were also promised by each of the commissioners and the conferences that the helmets would have the NFL type, I guess you could say.
It's encryption.
Encryption.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. So I don't know why all of a sudden Texas Tech, maybe because they lost a couple of games, it's kind of a bad look that all of a sudden the last 2 weeks they lose. And then here comes Texas Tech, Kirby Hocutt, Cody Campbell, etc., with accusations and maybe even emojis of a bear and a frog. But this is something that is more than just what Texas Tech might believe or their fan base. The Big 12, they could have handled this better. They knew about this. Baylor and TCU told them about this. Nothing was really done or nothing was put out. There was no meeting. So then Kirby Hocutt brought it up this week. That's kind of the background of this story. This is not just about Tech accusing or being concerned. This is something that across the board, the commissioners and conferences should have handled much, much better. And the business who handles the headsets, they failed everybody across the board.
Yeah, and look, when you've lost 2 games in a row, your fan base and everybody wants answers as to how this could happen after things were going so well. And then you get this little breadcrumb of something, and it sends you on a wild goose chase. But This was not some sort of conspiracy that happened by two different teams who hate each other's guts to beat Texas Tech. It was going on with everybody. They are trying to rectify the problem now and make sure that there's encryption. So the company they used is more at fault. So this kind of got really one of those ridiculous college football stories, at least out of Lubbock, a little out of hand yesterday, and got silly.
Yeah. Do I really have to take this off? I feel great. It's the best I've ever felt on this show. I almost just want to sit.
Yeah, you need to take it off because we can't understand.
Yeah.
You can put it back on later on, but if there's a mask that I could have gotten for you, that was the perfect one.
Yeah.
You love that. Craig would rather not be on the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so Craig, your thoughts about this, and I want to clarify a couple of things to make sure we get this all, and of course on the chat room. Appreciate this is 365 Sports. Craig?
Yeah, man, so the proper timeline here, you're throwing around a lot of like, well, we think in this, okay, yeah, so Texas A&M had the encryption issue earlier in the year. It became known at that time. Unfortunately, the company didn't have the proper, encryption in place that prevented this the way that the schools were told that it would, which was the way that the NFL uses their headsets. They were under the impression that it was the same as the NFL, so there wouldn't be those kinds of issues. That was not the case, so that's where everybody was already off on the wrong page to begin with. And then apparently they have these issues that continue to arise or become problematic. And like you said, the big thing here is that there was somebody wrong here. It just wasn't necessarily Baylor and TCU. It was the Big 12. They did not handle this correctly. They basically, I guess, told some of the schools, what do you call them? The
football operations?
Yeah, like the football ops people. They told football ops people at all the schools, but according to the articles, like that doesn't mean that they went and then told their head coaches and their presidents and their ADs, and they informed the whole chain of command. So they told some of the people at the very root of who might be concerned with the issue, and then just, I guess, left it up to them to go tell all the people in power that would also like to know, like your athletic director and your head football coach and those guys. So I think it depends on what school you're talking about as to where this even got before yesterday.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I think Tech, according to Chris Level, got word from some random anonymous person that he didn't shed any light on that, according to somebody that I saw, that he said, I guess that Tech was approached by somebody who had like full-blown recordings of these games. And so I've seen a bunch of Texas Tech fans referencing that. I haven't seen a single audio recording to speak of, nor is there an inference that was like, they're calling this and we're responding. It was just like, there's this vague, there was audio recordings. So apparently Texas Tech was approached with this like in the last couple of days or yesterday, and that's when they were alerted, and that's when then they turned and told the Big 12. So I don't blame Texas Tech for being like, what the hell is this all about? Especially when you come to learn that a bunch of other people are like, wait, what are you talking about? So the whole conference wasn't even on the same page here. That's a fault of Brett Yormark and whoever underneath him is in charge of relaying this information. Let's just start right there. Like, no matter what you feel about Texas Tech and whether they're crying or whatever, they have a legitimate gripe here. Not necessarily that's why they lost games, but the whole conference should be aware, like, hey, there's a chance the communications could be wonky and you could be having some bleed over that other people, if they had, the proper setup and the knowledge of it, they could take advantage of. It wasn't like you just flip on a light switch and you're like, run left, throw to Micah Hudson. Like, it wasn't like that. So I don't know how much it actually helped people, but the first issue here is that there was an issue and it was not properly handled.
And one of the people that works at AT&T Stadium with the Cowboys also is a part that works with Baylor and also TCU. They're part of the, I guess you could say, vendors or clients or whatever you want to call it. They also told the SEC, this person that heard about the encryption issue, both TCU and I believe it was TCU and Baylor called the Big 12 office and said these headsets are flawed. The Big 12 said, okay, we'll look into it. Never heard back from them. Also, there was communication between Baylor, from what I'm being told, between Baylor and Tech saying that they're not comfortable with it either before they played the game in Lubbock. And so that's one of the issues on the table as well. ADs are upset, huge failure by the company. They apparently have fixed the issue. But to not bring it up to the ADs when it first came out or when it first became an issue is just, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, they left themselves open for a potentially scandalous type of moment for the league, in a league that in a year that's otherwise been pretty fun and memorable. You just left yourself open to this. Like, you just left your back door open, and you didn't tell the rest of the house, like, hey, the back door is going to be open. Like, you might want to keep your head on a swivel and maybe lock your bedroom door or what. You just like, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out when they see somebody walking through the house. Or, I don't know. I know it's not the best example, but it's just like they just left it up to everybody else to just take care of their own and not inform everybody. So that's where the big issue lies. As you said, I saw that as well, that TCU and Baylor apparently became aware, passed it on to officials. So that ruins the narrative.
No, go ahead.
That ruins the narrative of Texas Tech. And quite frankly, Texas Tech would be fine in the way that they put out this, except for they made it so public and so about their games to everybody who's reading the story of so Texas Tech's accusing people of cheating. Because that's how the story reads. And you think, well, maybe not. But then the problem that Texas Tech had, and the reason why it turns into their whining, is when your biggest donor gets on Twitter.
Show the tweet. We have it.
And he's been on this show.
Cody Campbell.
Good guy. But
Great
this
guy.
is the biggest donor for Texas Tech. And as this story is getting published yesterday, he's very clearly making it look like, oh, Baylor and TCU are doing something. And based on a lot of Tech responses, they're like, dude, shut up and just be better at football.
Yeah.
And so salute to you, Red Raiders fans, who are like, cut the bull. And then there's a bunch of them who are like, this is the only reason we lost. And those people, you go check their timelines, they believe a lot of things aren't true that they don't vibe with, okay?
Yeah.
So you're going to always deal with those people. But, so when you have Cody Campbell out there putting that out, dude, that's just throwing more gasoline on this thing. And I'll just tell you right now on this entire story, whether anybody was found cheating or not, if the reigning national champion can do what they did last year,
Yes.
I don't give a damn about a little bit of helmet communication for whatever the regular season. I'll be honest with you. I really don't. This is a story that the Big 12 fumbled. This is a story that Texas Tech then went and poured gasoline and lit. And I don't think most of the country actually gives a crap at all. I think this is a blip on their backsides, quite frankly. And I think it is for most of the Big 12 as well, because most people are now like, so Texas Tech's just bad at football. That's what we were trying to, that's kind of the reality. But, it's a look that wasn't great, and it's one that needs to be handled. And I guarantee there's people that will still refuse to believe that it's not just what it was said to be today, but that's just life in general, just like we're going to have an election next week.
Right.
And inevitably, somebody's going to feel like their guy didn't win, there's a conspiracy. So if you believe that that's the case, you're going to believe that. If you don't, you don't, and we'll move on accordingly.
Do you know how some in leadership positions around the Big 12 found out about this?
The meeting on Tuesday?
No. Well, that was discussed. But as far as yesterday, some ADs and some others were like, wait a minute, what? They found out because a national reporter started calling them. Max Olson might be it. Let's see. Chris Vanini, among others, a part of it. And so some of them were caught off guard because they didn't know. And I don't know if Baylor or TCU with Donati or Mac Rhodes knew that they were the ones that were pretty much, in a way, somewhat targeted because, of course, the issue was brought up in the last week. Now, the tweet by Cody Campbell, first of all, he's an incredible supporter of Texas Tech. He is a mega alpha donor. We've had him on the show and enjoyed it because he helped us understand NIL, just like Jeremy Fudge from Baylor and others. But when you put up the bulging eyes and then you put up the frog and the bear, that's like almost like you have some sort of information that's evidence against those two schools. And I think that Cody, I don't know, he's pretty big boy, doesn't care. I think he probably could have handled that a hell of a lot better.
But
the failure is, again, the conferences knew there was an issue. The conferences also promised everybody, ADs, coaches, everybody, that these headsets would be the exact same that is used by the National Football League, by the NFL, and that is not the case. They dropped the ball. We're 7, 8, 9 weeks into the season, and so that's really angered a lot. I don't know how long the contract is, but that's angered a lot of people in athletics and administration around the country.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal in the grand scheme, and I don't think, like I said, that most people nationally care, but here in the Big 12, it was a story yesterday, and so we're going to talk about it a little bit, but I don't think it's something that's going to be like this long-lasting, scandalous storyline of 2024. But I can see why, if you're Cody Campbell or you're Joey Maguire, you would want it to be, because you guys have invested a lot. There's a lot riding on your shoulders, and you're not winning games all of a sudden when you got off to this great start. So you would love for this to be the smoking gun of like, well, that's why we lost, was only because these two teams cheated and they read our signals, and that's why we lost those games. And yeah, you would want to believe that. I would want to believe that if I was a Texas Tech fan, but I've seen plenty of Tech fans who are, like I said a second ago, just whatever, dude, get better and play better defense or whatever. And so I commend those people, because I don't think this is some giant smoking gun. There is the information that Baylor and TCU were as aware and also relayed it, so that kills the entire narrative of them, buying scanners and whatever it is that you would hope that was actually the case. So, yeah, I think the Big 12 is at the root of the issue, and they are the ones that didn't handle this properly, and they turned it into a potentially really messy PR situation for themselves by not talking to their schools and just, I guess, telling, like, ops guys, like, oh, we'll just ensure that you'll go pass it along the chain of command. Like, no, you should have called the ADs directly. There should have been knowledge across the board prior to the meeting on Tuesday.
How about a mass email to everybody from the conference?
Something.
Yeah,
but they did not handle
a group
that right.
text.
Yeah. Well, here's one of the other things.
Instagram post.
Katie Rader.
Anything.
Smokey, he's talking about Cody Campbell. He's a regent, too. Big money that barely talks about anything. He knows things other idiots don't. I'm not gonna, you're not questioning us. I know you're not, because you wouldn't. But we know stuff, too. We do our due diligence, too. Now, am I a regent? No. I'm not a big booster or a donor for anybody. But we also do our job. So, yes, he's a regent, he's a donor and all that. And I like Cody Campbell. This might have been just a blip.
That's not the point of what we said.
I think he got emotional about this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he got emotional about it.
The regent should not be jumping on throwing, mysterious emojis out that are pegging two of your rivals to the board for cheating, basically. Because that's what I saw a lot of yesterday. Well, Texas Tech's not accusing anybody. Here's Cody Campbell with a frog and a bear emoji and big bulging eyes. So, yeah, they might not be saying these two cheated, but you're basically saying that. That's what I'm saying about Cody Campbell is I don't think that was the best look. I don't care what he knows. I'm sure he knows a lot and obviously knew enough about this, but in a way you were accusing those schools. So, if there's more to it, then I'm sure we'll hear it. I don't doubt for a second, like I just said with the Connor Stallions thing, I don't doubt for a second that there could be people trying to find ways. It's college football. Of course they are. Like, what are we talking about? Of course there's a possibility that somebody could be going and grabbing a scanner and trying to take advantage and break down your play call and do all that. I wouldn't put that past any program in America. I just don't buy the ability to really do that all that quickly in these couple of games, and that's the reason for why you lost. And I don't think it's a good look for the powerful regent and backer and supporter to basically nudge, wink, wink. We're not saying anything, but here's a bear and a frog emoji and big bulging eyes. Yes, you are saying something. So, yeah, I'm sure he knows, and if he knows more, there's more to know, then we'll all know it in time as well. I don't know if the Big 12 really did their check in 24 hours and crossed every T and dotted I. I don't believe everything they say at the moment, honestly, but, I mean, I also don't think this is the thing that's going to turn the Big 12 on its head this season.
I just think that for this in particular, the process I think it would take probably at least a full year and an off season to figure out how to effectively cheat off of this, right? Like to do it where, like, look, Connor Stallions didn't come by this accidentally, right? When he was stealing signs, he's military trained, like he's learned all these things. Essentially, he was an expert in kind of code and all those things. So he used those skills over time and painstakingly researching things out. And that's putting it nicely, but that's what he did, of watching signals, going places and doing this. So you're telling me that some football coaches could be sitting in a booth and then somebody gets a frequency scanner, and this microphone is on from the time that the play clock starts until a few seconds before the snap, and then it turns off. So if you're the defensive coordinator who's talking to the defensive player with the green dot, to listen to the whole thing that everyone says, decipher it, and then feed it back to the defense in time for them to do anything about it, I just don't think that there's any kind of way that you could realistically
We don't know
do
that.
it. I mean,
we
but
don't know that. But
I mean, we don't. But like,
It's not really the.
that's the point.
Yeah.
But like, that's the thing of like, let's work this out of like how the functionality of the thing works and how it doesn't. You know, it's not like they're talking constantly throughout the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's
the problem
intermittent.
is with the company that is the one who had the contract with all of the schools, and their headsets were deficient. Their headsets were not professionally ready to be in a position where there was a lot of communication between coaches, players, et cetera, with so many games in also college football.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this was a story that also covered every other power conference and their issues and their exact same issues, and the fact that some of them had sent their equipment in already, and that they also had schools that just didn't feel like it was that big of a deal and didn't need to send it in or didn't feel the necessary need to send it in right now. I guess everybody's going to do that at this point, and they'll update all the software on that. But all the other conferences didn't seem to be all that bothered by it or felt like it was anything that was worth getting in a tizzy over. The only ones were, I guess, obviously Texas Tech, but we come to learn that, the Big 12 wasn't totally informed. So that's where it starts. It starts with that knowledge not being out there on the part of the conference. The blame lays at their feet, and then whatever you want to believe after that, you're going to believe, and there's nothing, that anybody's going to say to probably tell you otherwise, even if TCU and Baylor were also aware and also telling the league office. So that completely destroys that narrative. But, again, whatever you want to believe, this isn't Connor Stallions. And even if it was, like, what came of that? So why am I going to give a damn about it, all of a sudden and let it turn this year on its head? I'm not. So if there is a deeper issue there, then I don't know that they would have found that out in 24 hours, but it is what it is at this point, and the Big 12 has nobody to blame but itself for this entire conversation.
Here's the thing. I don't blame this on Texas Tech. I blame this on the helmet company, again, and the administrators or commissioners and those who run the conferences that could have handled this in a much more efficient way. That's that's where the failure is. Now, the timing of it for Texas Tech, maybe because of the back-to-back losses and the disappointments. Yeah, you got a lot of people hot and bothered up in Lubbock right now because of the last couple of games, and especially losing to two teams that are longtime rivals in TCU and Baylor. I don't know what led. I don't know who leaked the story to the media, how Max Olson got on it the way he did. I don't know. Somebody did. And so there we are with that. And hopefully, I don't know, it's like it's college football, man. There's always a little bit espionage, or there's concerns, or there's accusations that are also along the way. But the commissioners of the Power 4 school or conferences could have handled this a hell of a lot better.
No, Brett Yormark could have handled it a lot better.
Well, it's commissioners of the Power 4.
Well, nobody else is around those other conferences is complaining that they didn't hear this.
No, but okay, all right. I'll take. Yeah, okay. Then I'll agree with you. I don't know what the SEC with Sankey and others, what they may have said once they were alerted to this issue.
Yeah, but they didn't say it publicly.
Yeah, no,
that's
the thing.
That's the difference, is that the SEC, Greg Sankey, rules with an iron fist. And do you think Mississippi State would come out and be like, this is why, this is it? No, because they know that they'll get cut off at the knees by Greg Sankey. Now, not that Brett Yormark is that bad at it, but the SEC didn't say anything. The ACC didn't say anything. They all knew about this. Like you said, A&M was the first one. A&M never complained about anything. They just said, we don't think this is working. Mm-hmm. And that was the complaint. It was some of the higher-ups, including like Kirby Hocutt, even putting that vibe out there that something was going on that made this a thing out of Lubbock, where out of College Station, it just was a thing like, hey, we notice these things aren't really working. Can we look into that? That was the thing. Texas Tech took that and ran in a little bit of a different direction.
I would think that Donati and also Mac Rhodes may, after all of last night and even into the day, you call the conference office and go, why are we having to defend ourselves? We're the ones that told you about this.
Yeah,
that would be a scenario of somewhat interest.
Yeah, that's the difference, is that it was handled differently. We knew about it. We knew about it, and we're already talking about it probably way too much and making it too big of a deal. But A&M and Arkansas, that's when everybody was made aware. The entire country knew then. Everybody went about their business. And for some reason, only one conference didn't, I guess, inform all their members, or just nobody else in those other conferences really thought it was that big of a deal, that even if they didn't hear it right away, that it really made all that much of a difference to the point they needed to say something. So, yeah, the reason why this became a big deal is because the or whatever it is, Big 12 didn't inform its schools the way it should have, and then Texas Tech decided to make it a very public ordeal and basically say that TCU and Baylor are cheating without saying that. And that's what my whole point is with the Cody Campbell thing. That's basically what you were inferring. Whether that was intentional or not, that's what you were doing. And you're a smart guy. You're a billionaire. You knew what you were doing there. So no, nothing personal, but that's why this turned into more of a thing for 24 hours than it did anywhere else in the country, even though they had the exact same issues for the most part.
Here's the funny tweet of the night last night. And, Garrett, this is about the TCU and Baylor fans who hate each other. And some of them actually do. This is from Wild Bear 09. Never thought there would be anything to bring Baylor and TCU fans together this week, but here comes Tech in there. And then he said BS again. And, again, pointing the finger at Tech. That's a joke. We can joke in this days and age in this country, so there we are.
It kills it when you sit there and stomp all over the joke by saying it's a joke. Laugh at the joke. The joke is funny.
Okay, then I shouldn't have read it.
No.
You just got to let the joke be a joke.
Yeah, you don't Jeb Bush it. You don't please clap.
Yeah, this could have been in March and, for them to get along. Would
all seriousness, I mean, Tech needs to go play a good game this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't. Everybody's aware of the issues now, so go to Ames and go play your tails off. And Barrett Morton's healthy, and I'm sure we'll see some more Will Hammond. And they've been, that Baylor game wasn't all that close. That's the other thing. The Baylor game, if that was like the rare blowout, you'd go like, yeah, that was kind of weird. That's never happened before. But it happened 2 years ago. Like, that's the thing, is they went to Lubbock and did pretty much the exact same thing 2 years ago. But if that had been a one-off, you'd go like, yeah, that is very strange. But I think because of this, Texas Tech's already feeling a little bit of pressure because they've taken a couple of losses in a row. They've got some, more coin flip type games upcoming, if not at outright being an underdog in Ames this weekend. So I think, once you do this, you're doing it for what you believe are the right reasons. But now, as a result, like, you really need to win. Like, you better win. And if you don't, then I think it just makes it look worse for you. And then it makes it look like excuses potentially, which is how some Tech fans are already taking it yesterday. But, yeah, I think it's important to go out and big show. But the good news is like, there's no more secrets. Like, everybody's aware now. If nobody was before, if you weren't before, you can't possibly be unaware at this point. So that's good, and that was a service that they did do. And so Tech does deserve credit for bringing this to light. I just think they put it under the spotlight a little bit too much, and that's where I'll leave it.
Whether they called a national reporter or somebody that put it out there for a national reporter, that's what kind of made this thing into a firestorm instead of the Big 12. Releasing some sort of an email or statement or meeting or whatever. It's good that Kirby Hocutt brought it up. It just got a little bit dicey that some schools within the Big 12 feel like they were blindsided because of it, and it could have been prevented. I like Cody Campbell. We'll offer a chance for him to come on the show anytime he wants. Maybe he's blocked my number. I don't know. And, by the way, there are some other football notes. Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke is on track to start, according to Brandon Marcello at Michigan State Wednesday. Of course, he's been out when he cut his fingertip like a fingernail in that win against Nebraska, had surgery on his right thumb. Kirk Cignetti saying Monday he was optimistic that Rourke would play again, maybe this week, and that appears, at least for now, that the timeline is he could be there for their game against Michigan State.
Yeah, that's huge news for Indiana as they go down the home stretch here. They could really shake things up. They've got a game against Ohio State coming up here soon. If you're Curtis Rourke, you want to be completely on your game when that comes up here. So getting more time in, getting healthier, doing that would be great. They can probably beat Michigan State, who's been not great this year without him. But you want your guys in there. You want them at full speed when they get into the big game. So happy that Curtis Rourke is going to be playing. Interested to see how Indiana's ride continues.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's got a thumb issue and a nail issue and all that. You just never know, especially a quarterback handling the football, how all that's going to work out. But it sounds like, luckily, it's nothing too major, so that's great. You don't want one of the best stories in the league, in college football, talking too much about the Big 12. In the bigger picture of college football, one of the best stories, if not the best story, you don't want that to be ruined by some pesky hand injury, even though we've seen that plenty of times before with seasons getting derailed. But I'm glad to see that in this case that won't happen. At least for this week and moving forward, they've got their guy, it looks like. So close this bad boy on out and let's see, how far you can take this. I still don't think you're going to beat Ohio State in a couple weeks, but who the hell knows, especially because you should have your starting quarterback. And otherwise, we'd be probably feeling a lot differently about that, but that's great. Like, I want to see the best players play on the best teams, and they're certainly one of those combinations this season.
We will have the Big 12 South Pod here in about after this next break. Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix. Troy Baker, former Baylor offensive lineman. Craig's off the radar. There was a baseball game last night that we'll get to, I'm sure. David Marshall, who served about 3 or 4 years in the U.S. Army, was not good enough to make a junior college football team out of Waxahachie. There's a story there. He was on the same team with Jalen Rager, and he was voted, David Marshall, as the best player on the team. Did not make a JUCO team, joined the Army. Now he's a walk-on and now part of the Baylor football program. Mickey Spagnola and Paul Catalina's top 5. A couple other quarterback notes. Kevin Jennings, expected to try to play. Pete Thamel with this story, limited in practice, but Rhett Lashlee has limited him or has at least listed him as questionable, but has been spotted in open practice and needs, of course, still to be cleared, and that would help SMU with their game coming up with Pitt.
They're going to need him. I mean, Pitt's good. Eli Holstein, though, is questionable. Like both quarterbacks in that game, trying to fight through some injuries. So we'll see what happens when they do it. But that's a game with playoff implications. I told you that at the beginning of the year. SMU and Pitt has ACC championship implications and potentially playoff implications. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, Eli Holstein's starting. I mean, that was made clear yesterday by Pat Narduzzi. He put that out there, so that's already been checked off, and so he will be starting for Pitt. And on the side of Kevin Jennings, that's great. Again, going back to Curtis Rourke, want the best players and the best teams to play, so he is certainly their best quarterback option. That's been proven out. We saw a little back and forth with Preston Stone early in the year. I don't know what the hell happened to Preston Stone, but some of that was just Kevin Jennings being good, and he is a playmaker, but he was really bad last week. I'm sure the injury had something to do with that, but it's an absolute turnover machine. They got very fortunate they still were able to beat Duke because the way that they play, that should have been a loss, and yet they got the big block at the end and all that. So SMU keeps winning, but they need Kevin Jennings to be healthy, and I don't know how healthy he'll be, but if he's available, that's certainly better than the alternative of him not being available. So, yeah, hopefully he and Holstein are both as good as they possibly can be for what is setting up to be a pretty big game in the ACC.
All right, so there we are with that. There are a lot of other stories.